So I think a lot of DPS mains and DPS players get a really bad rap in Overwatch, and this is coming from a tank main myself. Now I have dibble-dabbled a little bit into DPS, but for the most part, I'm playing D.Va, I'm playing Reinhardt, I'm playing Orisa. You know, I'm trying to create space, help you guys out. But for a lot of other support players, for tank players, and for flex players, it seems like they've been blaming the DPS almost solely for the losses of their games. In a lot of cases, they're saying that their DPS are trash, and that's why they can't rank up. And today I want to kind of disprove that a little bit and talk about why in most cases your DPS as a support main, as a flex main, or even I guess as another DPS aren't always trash. I mean, in some cases they can be, but in most cases why they aren't, and why they're just okay, and I guess why that can make it kind of seem like they aren't that great. And let's get started straight with that. I think the biggest problem that we have for DPS mains, as just every other role in the game, is that oftentimes you expect just too much of them, honestly, and especially too much of the DPS players at your rank. If you're playing at silver or gold or platinum or diamond or even masters, of course these players aren't going to be doing as well as Aimbot Calvin. And I think a lot of people don't really process that. They say, hey, this guy's the DPS player, he should be hitting these shots, he should be confirming these kills, he should be getting the consistent damage. And while that is what you'd want, consider that your DPS and the enemy DPS most likely won't be able to do that. If they were able to do that, they wouldn't be in the games that you're in right now, because they'd be so good that they would have gotten out of that rank already. Kind of remember that, and just first off, don't expect way too much out of them. And as well, expect that they will still get a decent amount of damage, they will still be able to hit the enemy backline, maybe get a few kills here and there, and do expect that they'll still be able to do at least quite a bit for your team, because oftentimes they will, but sometimes I feel like they just don't do quite enough to really be recognized as a good DPS, and if that's the case, a lot of times you just think that they suck. Now, I'm definitely not going to say right now, hey guys, go out, praise every DPS that isn't doing that great in your game, but also don't flame them just because they're doing okay. I know that you've played games with Smurfs in the past and you thought, hey, these guys are completely amazing, I wish all my DPS was like this, and sometimes you will get those Smurfs, or sometimes you will get those amazing players that are getting out of your elo quick. But remember, for the majority of players, just expect them to be okay, but not to be amazing, because if you're not in the highest rank, they honestly probably shouldn't be amazing. Now, here's something else that I kind of want to mention that I feel like a lot of people don't really think about. In a lot of cases, I feel like most DPS mains that have at least, 10 to 20 to 30 hours on a character actually are, again, half decent players. They kind of know when to use their abilities, have decent aim, and I'd say in general, most DPSs can hit a lot of shots. But I feel like the main problem about a lot of these players that makes you personally feel like they just aren't doing that amazing or just kind of suck is the fact that a lot of them just do have bad positioning. They go by themselves, they go too far away from the team, and they might just throw the game in that case. In a lot of cases, it feels like the DPS just are throwing the game by not helping you. And when they're not with their team, they're not dealing damage, it just kind of goes downhill from there in a lot of cases. If that does happen to you and you aren't a DPS player, please call out for you DPS to come next to you. If you see your own Hanzo just out in the boonies, doing something that you feel like could maybe work, but probably won't, yeah, ask them to come back. Ask them to stay back, play smart. And as well, I guess, a big problem that a lot of DPS have is that their target prioritization isn't that amazing, and this kind of connects as well. They have good aim, they can use their abilities, but they just aren't hitting the right person at the right time, so no one's getting finished off. If you, as a tank main, or as the other DPS, or as a support main, are calling out who to kill, that will make that DPS player much better, because if you're calling out, hey guys, kill the Reinhardt, kill the Reinhardt, kill the Reinhardt, and the DPS main then hears that and stops shooting at the Mercy from halfway across the map, but instead shoots at the Reinhardt right next to them with a scouter arrow, finishes them off, I think you can kind of see why that would be nice for you. And as a DPS main, a lot of the time when I was trying to do it during like season 3 and 4, you would just get a lot of tunnel vision and you just say, hey, I want to kill that guy that's far away from me. But I guess it's one of the other roles, try to pull them back and try to have them help your team instead of always just trying to, I guess, pop off by themselves. And something else I guess I should mention about positioning is that a lot of the time certain DPS like Tracer and Genji and Doomfist kind of do have to take risks to get in a good position. And potentially that could get them a lot of kills. You have to remember that. If Doomfist gets behind the enemy team without taking much damage, he could then just pop off, kill a few of the enemies, and go on from there. And I think a lot of people kind of forget is that if you keep having teammates that do this and they keep getting behind the enemies and they keep getting into a good position and then they get a lot of kills, you're generally pretty happy with that DPS player. If they do that once or twice in a game, you're happy with how it kind of went out, no matter who they're targeting. But if they do the opposite, If they go in, get into a good position, but then don't get any kills, their timing's wrong, you're obviously not going to be that happy with this player. And in a lot of cases, they are very similarly skilled. It's just one might be going in at the wrong time than others. And how you can fix this again is by calling out timings, by saying, hey guys, hey Doomfist, I'm playing Winston, I'm going to jump in, and after I jump in, you be ready to dive the enemy backline so they can't just turn on you instantly. Doing that can honestly make so your DPS can be a lot more consistent, so they won't be killed nearly as much, and so that they can still take those risky positions, but not die. I think DPSs do really focus on having good teammates backing them up, helping them target the right people, and keeping them alive, and if they have all that behind them, a half-decent DPS can seem like a god-tier DPS. That's a thing you have to keep in mind in a lot of your games, which is kind of annoying, but if you can enable these players as other roles, or even as the other DPS, if you can get rid of shields, let's say as Reaper, so that your Hanzo can pop off or your Widow can pop off, that is still an important thing to do. Maybe not as cool as playing DPS and getting the pop-offs, but making the room for them is, again, just as important. Now, something else that I guess could kind of make a lot of people think that DPS aren't the best is the waste of their ults. And I feel like this is probably my number one thing that I hate that a lot of DPS mains try to do. And honestly, if you're DPS main, again, I'm going to say try to fix this as much as you can. Do not ult to make huge solo outplays on the enemy team, because in almost like 50% of the situations, you are going to be throwing that game. If you're playing Genji, King of the Hill, let's say you have 50% on the point, the enemies have 50% on the point, it's kind of tied right now, and you as Genji just go in by yourself with a solo ult, you're wasting your ultimate, honestly, in most of the cases. Maybe if you can get 1 or 2 kills, hey, great, that's amazing, but if you go in and you don't get the kills, you're just wasting everybody's time. You're wasting your ultimate, you're wasting that potential, and you're throwing the game. While if you would have just waited for your team and played with your team and comboed your ultimate with your team, you could have used a lot less skill, a lot less mechanics, and just more combinations, and yes, more teamwork to win that fight instead. Again, if you're not a DPS main, listen to this in a similar vein. If you have a DPS player that keeps wasting his ultimate, please call out, hey, Genji, save your ultimate, save your ultimate, save your ultimate. Okay, Genji, now I'm gonna ult as Reinhardt. Let's get in there. Let's try to kill them. Just think about, I guess, how other DPS mains are thinking, because a lot of the time when you're playing a DPS, you kind of want to make those big outplays. You kind of want to pretend you're this pro player, that you can do anything because you're the DPS player, you're the star player, you're the ace in the hole. But, you know, if you're another person on their team, try to hold them back a little bit and try to make them make smart plays instead of flashy plays. Because a lot of the times the flashy plays just become useless trash plays, honestly. And I guess kind of connected to DPS players doing trash but cool looking plays, I think a lot of DPS players honestly think that they are much better than they are. A lot of them think that they deserve a much higher rank than they have, and a lot of them do have good aim, they have good damage, but again, their positioning or their ult timing or something is just pretty terrible. And overall, I think this makes just a toxic environment for DPS players. You get into a game, and you're thinking that you're amazing. You're thinking that you should be able to carry this, and you're just not getting those kills. You're just not getting everything. And I think that's a problem, because it makes these players really toxic in a lot of cases. It makes these players throw a lot of games in a lot of cases and play just not very smart. And I think that's where just the bad stigma for DPS comes from. I think a lot of DPS players expect too much out of themselves and think that they are quite a bit better than they actually are. If you're at a current rank that you've been stuck at for a while, accept that you do deserve that rank. But do also accept that if you work hard and if you try to improve yourself and if you look at your flaws, you can rank up in the long term. Just don't expect it immediately, because I think too many DPSs do. And when you put such big expectations on yourself, you're going to throw a lot of matches and you're going to make a lot of your teammates think that, yeah, you're kind of just playing like trash. So, yeah. And I guess the final thing I want to say before we finish up with this topic is that, yeah, in some games, in some rounds of quick play, in some competitive matches, when you, as a field player, were playing DPS, you probably were in some capacity doing better than your current DPSs sometimes. But remember that while you have done good as those characters, as well, you probably forgot all the games that you have not done that amazing as DPS, where your team did not allow for you to do that well, where they did not really help you. You probably just kind of shrugging that under the rug and pretending that, hey, whenever I play this role, I'm doing amazing. Every other person playing the DPS should be doing amazing as well. You kind of remember that yeah, at some points, everybody does bad. And at some points, there will just be bad games for your DPS. Or at some points, the enemy team might just be playing counters to your DPS. Or maybe your team's just playing a bad team comp with your current DPS. Or maybe your DPS just don't know how to play with a dive comp, and they're going to do bad. There's a lot of different situations coming up. And I think, you know, before you start flaming these guys, think about what's going on. And I guess just don't flame them way too much. Because honestly, flaming your DPS never goes well. In any of my games, they just get even more angry and it just goes downhill from there. But anyways, that is just my own personal opinion, and all my opinions as to why I feel like a lot of DPS mains are called trash, but why in a lot of cases they really aren't. They're just okay, and I guess a lot of cases why okay is also kind of considered trash, even though it shouldn't be. I think okay should just be fine in a lot of matches, especially if you're just playing games to have fun and playing games to slowly rank up instead of just trying to grind and rank up immediately. But anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. This just has been my own opinion, so if you have your own opinion, please leave them down in the comment section down below. Tell me if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like or subscribe button, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.